Shauna Odette from the Flying Cat Academy. In today's video, I will teach you everything you need to know in vowel, consonant, silent, and syllable. So let's get into it. I teach using the Dyslexia Training Institute scope and sequence. And in that scope and sequence, the VCE syllable type, which stands for vowel, consonant, silent E syllable type, comes third. We teach this after we teach the closed syllable and after we teach the open syllable. As with teaching any of the syllable types, we always begin by giving out a rule card. In this case, the rule card will say that a VCE syllable type is one in which we have one vowel, followed by a consonant, followed by an E. And when we have that VCE combination, the vowel, the first one, will say its long sound, and the E will be silent. Now we'll cement that concept by telling a story. And we'll build on the story that we used when we taught the closed syllable. When we taught the closed syllable, we had the story. We said, oh, there's this vowel, let's say A, and A's mummy has gone away, and so A is at home, and a babysitter comes, the T. So now we have an A and a T. And when the babysitter's there, A is happy and says it's soft sound. It's short sound, ah. So we have at, closed syllable. But then let's build on this for the VCE syllable type. Let's say that A is in the house and the babysitter T is there. So A is saying this nice soft sound, ah. The babysitter's lying down on the couch and just getting a quick little sleep there, a nap. And E comes to the window. E says, psst, psst, and he whispers really quietly because he doesn't want to wake up the babysitter, doesn't want to get in trouble. And he says, A, are you in there? If you're in there, say your name. So when we have A-T-E, A says its name, its long sound, and now we have the word eight. Now the student's been given the rule card, they've been told the story, and now it's time to give the student a chance to work with the concept in a variety of multisensory ways. So we'll have them explore this concept using the blending drills and the magnetic letter tile drills for reading and for writing. We will have them work with the concept by reading single word lists, by reading stories, and by writing single words and also writing connected text. Here's how we might do that. So if we were working with magnetic letter tiles, we might start with the closed syllable, which is a concept that they've mastered, and we'd start with the word not. And then we'd say, let's change that to an open syllable. And they would take away the T, and then we'd review why that's an open syllable. And then we put the T back, and we'd say, well, we have that beautiful little closed syllable N-O-T, and the O is saying its short sound. But what happens when we want the O to say its long sound, but it's closed in by a consonant? Well, in this case, we have to create a third syllable type, the VCE syllable type. And that's why we put that silent E on the end. And now we can have a situation where we've got one vowel followed by a consonant being able to say its name. That's the purpose of that silent E. We are using the Orton-Gillingham teaching method, which means that we're always moving from the simple to the complex. And starting with simple means that we're starting with one syllable words. Once the student has mastered working with the VCE concept at the one syllable word stage, then we'll move on to two syllable words. And we'll do, which means that we're moving from the blending drill into the syllable card drill. In that first syllable card drill that we do when the student is moving into working with two syllable VCE words, we'll start with compound words. Words like fireside or lifetime. And as always, we will have the student read down column 1. So they would read life, base, side, life, fire. Then we'll have them read down column 2. They would read time, like, line, side, and swipe. And then we'll have them reading across each row, making nonsense words. Well, I guess the first one's not a nonsense word, is it? But lifetime, base, like, oh, sideline, there's another word. Life, side, fire, swipe. And then we'll have them keep all of the cards in column 1 as they are, and they'll simply swap around the ones in column 2 so they match up with different ones in column 1 to make real words. And afterwards, we'll have them read all the words out properly and put some of those words into sentences. When we're teaching this syllable type, the next big concept that comes up is one of those great rules of English. And this is the idea that we do not want English words to end in V. This means that sometimes that silent E on the end is doing the job of making the preceding vowel say its long sound. Think of the word brave, B-R-A-V-E. So you can hear the long A sound in brave. And in addition, in this word, the E is also stopping the word from ending in V. Sometimes it's just simply there to stop the word from ending in V. Think of the word give, G-I-V-E. In this case, the I is saying I, it's short sound. And so in this case, the E is simply doing one job. It's just there to say we are not ending English words in V. So this concept of the idea that when an English word ends in V and that E is there, sometimes it's simply doing one job and it's forcing that word not to end in V, but sometimes it's doing two jobs and it will force the vowel to say its long sound and it will be there to stop the word ending in V. You know that we love card sorts, so that's what we'll do to have the student work with this concept, this idea that sometimes when a word has that consonant V silent E combination, the E is going to do one job, and at other times it's going to do two jobs. And they'll do the card sort and read the words and prove that rule. When you get to this point in the scope and sequence, the students had about 71 lessons. So they've worked with the concept of prefix, base, and suffix quite a bit. And this is the point in the scope and sequence where we introduce the idea that when we add a prefix to a base, sometimes there's a natural doubling of consonant letters that happens. And that's okay. If we're aware of the prefix and aware of the base, then we're always going to spell these words right. So take an example like misspell, one of the most commonly misspelled words in English. If we know that miss is the prefix and spell is the base, when we put those two together, we know that it has to be M-I-S-S-P-E-L-L. There's just a natural, the two S's are side by side, and that's okay. That's what has to happen. We know that we always just slam the prefix onto the base. The place where the spelling rules happen is in between the base and the suffix. But at the prefix and base point, we just slam them together. Another word where this happens, think of unnerve. But we know how to spell unnerve because un is a prefix, nerve is the base. And we just slam those two together. So the natural doubling is we have those two N's side by side, and that's okay. Now it's time to teach the student how to add suffixes to the VCE syllable type. And as always, we'll start off with the rule card, and we'll teach the student that when we have a suffix that begins with a vowel, in this syllable type, we're going to drop the E and add the ending. We'll have the student work with this concept in all the normal ways by doing magnetic letter tile drills, by doing letter card drills, blending drills. And we'll take a word like mate, and we'll have the student turn mate into mating. And so we'll have them physically take that E and drop the E, have them say drop the E, and then they'll take all the tiles and push them over and say add the ending. And then they'll read the whole word mating. And this is a perfect moment to then show them, well, let's try the word mat. And then mat being a closed syllable, if I wanted to add ing to mat, I'd have to double the T. And so now this is what that wonderful moment, the aha moment where English makes sense. And the student will realize that when they see that doubler, the doubling of the T, that's an indicator that it's the closed syllable, which we've told them, since we taught this in Unit 1 in the closed syllable. But now they see why it all makes sense so that they know the difference between when they're reading mating, because it's not obvious if it's mat or mate once you just see M-A-T-I-N-G, unless you realize there's one T. So that's a sign that the base had the ending dropped. They drop the E and add the ending. Whereas the double T, that's a clear sign that, it's a closed syllable that comes before that. It must be mat. And the very last concept to teach is what happens when the suffix begins with a consonant. Take the suffix ness, N-E-S-S, for example. In the vowel consonant silent E syllable type, when we have a suffix that begins with a consonant, we just slam that suffix on. The drop the E and add the ending rule is only for when we have a suffix that begins with a vowel. And we'll have the student work with this concept, just like all the other ones. We'll make syllable card drills, we'll do blending drills, we'll do magnetic letter tile drills. Think of a word like likeness. Because N is a consonant that begins the suffix ness, we just slam it right on. And we can make a letter card drill that shows this concept where they're actually building almost like a mathematical equation to build a word. And we could do this with hat plus ing equals, and then they would write hatting with the double T because hat is a closed syllable. And then we'd have hate plus ing equals, and they would write hating, and they'd have the single T, and then we'd have that discussion again, just like we did with mat and mate. Okay, everybody, you did it. That's it. You've covered all the concepts in the vowel, consonant, silent E syllable type. Great work. This is Shauna Odette from the Flying Cat Academy.